Cool. Well, hello and welcome back to the Inside Story, everyone. The show where we host conversations exploring life's big questions, human endeavor, culture, ideas, and truth. And if you want to follow on social media, you can online via the usual channels at Real Inside Story. And if you have any questions for Jasmine or anything else during this next 45 minutes to an hour, then feel free to just put them in the chat or ping us a direct message on the Instagram, and we'll be integrating some of those into the chat. But today on the show, it's great to be talking with good friend Jasmine Harrison. Jasmine, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for inviting me.
No, it's good to have you on. And what where for the interest of our audience, where are you calling from? Where on the planet are you calling from?
Thirsk, my home in Thirsk. Not particularly exciting. Many of the others I did were from Antigua, but I wish I was there now, and I'm not.
So give people an overview of where Thirsk is in the UK. Is it they say it's the heart of the United Kingdom? Is that right?
Yeah, well, that's testament geography. It's near York, 20 miles from York, near Northallerton. Northallerton's the official heart. It's about 10 miles away from there.
Cool. Good stuff. So you're based in the heart of North Yorkshire. That's great.
Hmm.
Cool. Well, for those that don't know, in 2021, Jasmine became the youngest woman in history to row solo across any ocean after a 3,000 plus mile journey across the Atlantic. And Jasmine is also a swimming teacher. We're going to hear a bit about that as well. And from Thirsk, as she said, completed the challenge in 70 days, 3 hours and 48 minutes. So Jasmine, let's start things off with just an overview. 30,000 feet. You're 21 years old, but how did yeah? Have you always lived in Thirsk, and what kind of brought you to the start line essentially?
Yeah, lived in Thirsk my entire life, now a full 22 years. And I got to the start line because I was originally at the finish line. I was there by chance after going to the Caribbean in 2017, getting on a sailboat, island hopping, ended up in Antigua. When would it be? January, February, I was there for maybe a month altogether. In 2018, saw the finish and thought, I want to do that. So came back home, saved up, and then started looking for sponsors, got a boat and got to Ligomera.
Wow. Okay. Well, that is definitely a 30,000 feet. We're gonna dive a bit deeper. Pardon the pun. Not gonna go underwater, but we really want to chat and hear more about the kind of preparation and the during the challenge, and then also talking about how things have gone since. I know it's how long has it been now since you finished your row? You must be, you must know exactly.
Yeah, I think how many? 76 days I've been on land, something like that. Let me just yeah, exactly 76 days I've been on land.
So
Um
you so are your legs back? Let's ask that question.
yes, they are. Luckily it took a few days, but I can walk in a straight line now.
Cool. No, it's awesome because I
Unless
remember
it's
seeing,
Saturday night, then I can't.
yeah, because I remember seeing some footage of when you stepped off the boat, that historic moment in La Gomera, and sorry, in Antigua, you finished in Antigua, and yeah, you were looking a bit wobbly, but that's to be expected after 70 days. What was the feeling like, kind of getting off that boat? Did you feel like your body was just ready to fall over, or like how did you feel like coming off the boat at that moment?
Um, it was strange. I've never felt anything quite like that before. And it was also just the big thing was actually having other people around. Like that was and somewhere to step off onto, not it's just being surrounded by water the entire time to have like solid grounders. It's a strange feeling, something that I can't really describe, and nobody ever really has that experience, especially after so long. Like
Mm.
a week, it wouldn't bother me as much, but 70 days, 10 weeks, that's a long time.
Yeah, no, it is crazy. Yeah. So let's get back to the start. So you're 21 now, Jasmine, but in terms of getting the start line, it was you, as you mentioned, you saw the finish line a number of years ago, and you kind of were inspired. What specifically at that point was kind of, so you're on holiday, from what I remember you mentioning off air. Were you on holiday or were you working out there?
Mixture. It was
Party animal.
just traveling, go and do some swimming teaching, and yeah, I wouldn't really call it a massive holiday, but then again, kind of was. It wasn't sort of go out, eat loads of fancy meals. It was sleep in my hammock on the deck of a sailboat type
Oh,
of
we love hammocks. We love
day.
hammocks. We love hammocks. No, that's awesome. So you saw the end of the race, and many people would just go, "Oh, great, that's the end of some people rowing a race or finishing something." What was it that made you go, "I want to do that in a year's time or 2 years' time"? What was it?
Um, I just, I don't know. I try and put myself back in that moment, seeing it finish. But first of all, I was like, the Atlantic, like how far is that? Like, I have no idea how far it was. I knew it was like an 8 hour flight or something similar, but I was just more curious because I didn't know anything about it, and so that's what hooked me, because I quite like anything that's new and different and a bit interesting. I want to find out about, and because I didn't have a clue and didn't even realize that row and cross was possible. Um, it was just immediately hooked me like that. And then it built into something that I would actually then want to do, because it just seemed so amazing. And seeing these other people finish, I was like, I want to do something amazing too. Like at that
Hmm.
point, I was in a cool place,
Yeah.
sailing through the Caribbean, but it sounds really like quite spoiled, but it just didn't feel like enough. I wanted to have an aim, I wanted a target to hit
Yeah.
for. Like I was just sort of just being free and traveling. I wanted to um achieve something. I wanted to,
Have
yeah,
a goal. Would you say
yeah,
you want to have like a goal? Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
And that seemed like a pretty good goal.
No, it's really cool. That's really good to know. And I think for our listeners and for people who are 21, younger, older, I think it's so important to just hear that you know so many people can just sail through life without really, pardon the pun, without sailing or rowing, um, without actually having any direction. And obviously, you had a very clear direction across the Atlantic, but well, you were going in different directions at times, weren't you?
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that in a bit. But so just helping people understand that one of the main reasons you're doing it was to have that goal and to challenge yourself and to go for that. And obviously now you've achieved the world record, and but from understanding, having chatted to you previously and on the other stuff that you've shared, that wasn't what the kind of thing in your mind was at the start, was it? To do that in terms of the world record, that wasn't there, was it?
No, the whole reason behind the world record thing was when I was at the finish line, I spoke to the support crew and Atlantic campaigns that organised the entire race. And there was a guy who said, because the biggest thing for me was I can't afford it. I need sponsorship. Like, how much does this cost? And he then said, well, it's getting more popular every year. And so it's getting harder to get sponsors. It would help if you have a unique selling point, as in you could go for a record, because that's what companies want to then get behind more.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, what record could I get? Like, I was thinking, well, I want to do it by myself anyway. How many girls do it by themselves? He said, not that many. So there we go. So, well, how old are you at that point? I was like, I'm 18. It's like, right, perfect. You can be the youngest then. It's like, right. And then he said, I think the youngest at the moment is like 22. So you've got a couple of years as well to get prepared and do everything. Because I'd even crossed my mind to do it that year. It would be in 2018. Like I was debating whether to go straight home from Antigua, literally just get on a flight, go home and do it right then. And I could have. I'd have then been 19 at the start line, but it just didn't feel right. I was already too sort of settled in, and I didn't actually at that point. I had a flight booked, so I didn't actually have the money to be able to cancel it to then get back home. So it was like I would
Mm,
just be starting to be too rushed. It didn't feel right. But that's where the world record started from. It didn't actually bother me as much. I couldn't really care
yeah,
less about it. It was just useful, that USP, to
yeah,
get sponsors to be able to actually do it.
yeah, indeed. And as we know from having kind of done other crazy things, it's very much a team thing, but also it also a long time in preparation, isn't it? These things. This is for those listening. That many have listened to probably to the conversation I did with friends who we both know, Cameron and Anna, who did it a couple of years ago as well. They were obviously a pair, brother and sister pair. We'll talk a bit about the classes in a bit, and the singles and solos and all the different classes. But from understanding from them as well, the length of time it took to prepare. Just can you talk through a bit about what that means and what that entailed? Because it was very different for Cameron and Anna, I can imagine, from you being a solo to preparing. So what did that involve? The kind of the mental, the physical, the technical, the finance aspect. How did that go about?
So I entered it. It was April, May time. So 2 years ago, exactly 2 years ago. And I then needed to. I started looking for sponsors. I was just Googling and I was going to all big companies, the ones that have the money to be able to give out. So I was just sort of like doing the online processes of asking for sponsorships through websites and things. And that wasn't getting me anywhere. I got a few rejections, and half the time nobody ever gets back to you anyway. I needed to build up a website, and then I was like, right, okay, if I'm going to do this, I need to get some like a bank account to be able to get sponsor money going into it to keep everything like separate. And then it was right, okay, and I had a sudden panic because it got like a bit closer. I went, I need to get my courses done. I need to qualify. So literally, I think it was 2 days' notice. I booked my courses down at Sea Sports and just hopped on a train and went down to Teignmouth and did my courses. I was there for a week. So
Guys,
you
what just explain to people what those courses were, what they were needed
um
for.
so you needed your sea survival, you need navigation, you need your radio license, that was a big one. And you need first aid, learn the CPR because I'm going to be doing that by myself out there. But no, it was just ticking
You
the
never
box
know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to meet on the water.
to be able to just qualify, so then you can actually
Yeah.
one find your way across. Navigation was important. And then I went to Ligomera to watch a race finish. That's what Atlantic Campaigns recommend. Sorry, the race start. It's what Atlantic Campaigns recommended people to do, just so you found out a little bit more about it. So I did, and it was there that I took some pictures, and then I sort of went, I'm going to tell people I've entered this now. 6 months later, 7 months later, I was just like, I'm going to tell people. So I put it on Facebook, told my friends, and then it all kicked off. And immediately it was then like, okay, press wanted to be in contact and everybody wanted to know what it was all about. And then I started actually trying to get sponsors in January. So it wasn't until January I literally wrote some letters, put proposal forms together, spoke to people, walked into companies around, was thinking, who do I know that would want to sponsor? I did all that. And then obviously COVID hit, and that sort of ruined plans. It meant that I couldn't get my boat that I'd only decided in the February, whilst I was actually out in the middle of the Atlantic. I put a deposit down because I got my first sponsor in January. And then I couldn't get my boat till late July, which wasn't ideal. And I also had no big sponsors, really big sponsors, and the ones that I needed at that point either. So it was all a bit of a rush come September time. Did all my training, July, August, September, and then it was all right. I've got a few months. You need to have pre-shipping inspections. I need to get everything serviced. I need life service. I need new batteries. I need to learn about my boat. I need to pack. I need to order food. Everything was just in a massive rush because your boat gets shipped mid-October. Like you
Yeah.
think, oh, it's fine. We don't start till December. However, everything needs to be done and fully packed and ready to go by October. And suddenly that's time's gone. And also training. Oh, completely forgot about that. Needed to actually go to the gym. So it was in January I started
Yeah.
training. Got sponsored by JW Fitness. And I was training every single day, even throughout lockdown. I got keys to the gym, so I could just go by myself, like a home gym, and it was perfect. So
That's
you
awesome.
forget about stuff like that, and that was every single day for the past year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's just on that note, two aspects. So Cameron and Anna, who we both know as we talked about, they had when we talked to them, they shared how their build up in their life kind of had all built up to actually doing the big row. Now, obviously, everyone does things differently. There's many ways to row the Atlantic, in terms of the preparation. But for you, that wasn't the case. You hadn't done tons of big adventures. You hadn't done tons of big challenges. But talk us through what your kind of core foundation has been before you actually, to make you in your mind think, yeah, I can actually do this. Um,
That's a big question.
you've got
My
like 10 seconds. No, I'm joking.
yeah, no, my core foundations behind it. It was just I spent a long time trying to decide whilst I was out rowing what actually got me there in that first place. But it was just like internally, it was something that I just knew I wanted to do. Like
Mhm.
I was saying to myself, you won't be happy until you do this row. And I was thinking, oh, it's all right. I can do it when I'm 25. I can do it when I'm like 30. I don't care. I'm going to do it one day. And I was saying to myself, are you going to do it one day? The only thing that actually made me and drove me to do it was getting these sponsors saying that I'd then be the youngest.
Yeah.
And that's, I remember counting and working out the days thinking, could I
I've
do
not got
it?
long.
Yeah, genuinely, I thought, because when I was 18, I thought, oh, well, if I was 22, I thought, I've got 4 years. It's fine, I've got 4 years.
Mm.
And then it suddenly kind of, I did a little bit more research about it and I went, I need to enter it now. I need to enter it like this year. Otherwise, if I entered it, I could have done it the year after and I'd have still got the youngest, but only by like a month or something.
Not a
And
lot of margin, is it? It's not a lot of
no.
margin. You
So
want to
I
do
was
it
just
properly.
like, it's got to be now. And it's just a sudden like panic. I just went, got to do it. I've just got to do it. Just enter. And I was stressing about it. I just entered, and I was just happy once I entered. Like that was it. And that's the complete
Yeah.
reverse for a lot of people. Is as soon as you enter something so big and scary like
Yeah.
that, you go, "Oh no, what have I done?" But for me,
Yeah.
it was like, "Okay, right, good. Well, now I can chill out. Okay, cool."
Yeah. It's one of those things, I think, when you say you're going to do something, you've just got to follow up with it, haven't you? And it's kind of that some people I know myself, Jasmine, I need that kind of somewhat pressure of I've said something, okay, I now need to actually deliver it. And so I can totally relate to that. But Jazz, in terms of in terms of the preparation, you know, we talked a bit a minute ago about you being, you know, you've done a lot of swimming, you've done a lot of sports. Was that, I guess, when I said core foundation, your kind of core fitness, your
Okay.
core build up in thinking, okay, I could actually do this. It wasn't just you know. What I want people to understand is this isn't something that you've never done sport in your life. You've just gone, I'm just going to row an ocean and just started going to the gym once. That's what I'm trying to just understand for the
Yeah.
audience.
So I've always done sport, done every different sport.
Mm.
And so I'd never rowed though. And I wanted to row, like, I want to do different things. I want to have every sort of different experience. Um, so from full swimming background mainly, which has got led me to the Caribbean in the first place.
You
I
didn't
then
fancy swimming across?
I'd considered it, and I did joke saying that because people knew I couldn't row. I never rowed. I said, "Oh, it's fine.
Speak to Ross.
Yeah. I'll just jump in and I'll swim my boat across. I was just
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
oh, I'll just swim it. Maybe a little bit naive because I didn't really enjoy jumping in the water when I was there. But yeah, it was. I was just knew I could do it. It didn't. I'd done enough research and you're looking at other people that have done it. I'm like, well, and I had that mindset of, well, if they can do it, then why can't I? Like I knew I had to work hard for it, but I did have the strength there, and a lot of the time it's saying it's more of a mind game than physically. Like anybody can physically row it. Like this year you saw Frank rowed and he's
Mm,
70.
mm,
Like it was just more the mental strength. And I think I've been through sort of enough sport and getting your head around the game and like even just throwing up in a training session like mentally I was like I can achieve that, we're fine. So that's sort of why and how I knew I'd be able to do it,
yeah,
because I could compare even just the rowing. I was rowing, I'm thinking you got through a tough training session before, you can get through this night shift, you can do it. And like I
yeah,
like comparing things to you've already done, which is partly why I wanted to row the Atlantic. Is
yeah.
if I come across a problem later in life and you say, oh, this is a really difficult time, I think, yeah, but
Mm,
you rode the Atlantic by yourself. Of course you can get over this. And so it just is quite a nice fallback for anything else that comes, everything seems easy. So
yeah.
the week I was just like, oh, you know what? Running half a marathon. Well, it's not 3,000 miles, is it? Of course I can do it. I mean, it was really difficult, obviously, but it just felt achievable. Everything feels achievable. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and we'll talk a bit about some of these challenges you've done since. I know we had a joke about them the other week, but it's gonna. I think people will enjoy hearing about those, what you've been doing afterwards as well. But just before we get into the actual row, let's. I'd love you to just have a moment just to share about who you did it for, the charities. That was one of the reasons, wasn't it? The awareness, and kind of what they were and how close they were to you. So yeah, just a few minutes on that, Joe.
So I did it for two charities. The first one I chose was Shelterbox. That was for a few reasons. first of all, so long story, I'll make it short. When I was in the Caribbean, when I first got there in 2017, they got hit by some really bad hurricanes. I was down island enough that Grenada didn't really get affected badly. I mean, yes, the beach has got destroyed, trees down, all of that, but it wasn't anything compared to other islands, particularly Dominica. And so this guy who had a sailboat, he said, I'm looking for people to help me do some relief work to Dominica. And so I was like, oh, I want to do that, of course. So we went to do that. It did fall through because of the different custom things, taking things by private means and stuff. But that's what the charity shelter box does. They help and they're relief for natural disasters, like that secondary aid that's there that provides a box of shelter with anything that a particular family or whatever need for that sort of disaster. Whether it's so they do like even just homeless, provide tents, lighting, just food, all sorts like that. But also,
amazing.
Yeah, the guy that had this boat in the first place, he was a strong member of Rotary Club, and he was American, and so he it was him that lent the boat, and I thought, you know what, I'll do this. And Shelter Box is supported by Rotary Club as well, so that fitted quite nicely.
Yeah.
And it was just, yeah, it was just good. And then Blue Marine Foundation was my second charity, and that was just because it's restoring the oceans to health, stopping overfishing, something that I was already quite aware of. And it's perfect because, I'm doing this as a completely, what would the word be? Eco-friendly trip.
Yeah.
No fuels.
Renewable, isn't it? You had the solar panels, didn't you? So
there's nothing's going into the seas either, and I'm just getting to experience all the beauty of it. And so if I can help protect that by raising some money to stop the overfishing, then it fitted really well.
That's awesome. Yeah. So have you had any have you had any chance to speak to them, and have you built a relationship with these guys, the charities that you've worked with, pretty well?
A little bit, yeah. I know I need to reply to one of the emails, sending them some footage. That was meant to be a job. But yeah, there's starting to build up a bit of a relationship. But to be fair, it doesn't bother me as much. I'm like, look, I've raised your money, there you go. And maybe in the future continue to do so.
Yeah.
No,
That's awesome. Well,
so.
it's amazing that you've raised that, and just to remind our viewers, obviously you were doing it for the challenge, but also raising the money and awareness. How much did you raise for these charities? It's an amazing achievement.
I've raised over £25,000.
It's awesome.
Altogether, so I ended up paying them all, and then more money would come in. I was like, okay, separate little things, but yeah, altogether it's total like over 25,400 and something.
Great.
I have to have a look.
Did you agree did you decide like a 50-50 split for them so they could benefit? Yeah,
so it's
great.
pretty much been a 50-50 split. But I had some checks and stuff come in from people that was dedicated just to one particular charity, and so obviously I send the check off to them, and so it's about 50-50. But
that's awesome. Yeah, well, it just shows there's multiple winners in this challenge. There's obviously the achievement of doing it, but that impact for those charities is amazing. So let's jump on to the race, to the challenge, Jasmine. For those who are maybe listening to this as they haven't heard other ocean rowing interviews, they haven't heard other inspirational conversations about the Atlantic. Jasmine, tell us about the challenge itself. So it's where it's starting, when it's finishing, a bit of the stats around it, and then we're going to dig into the row.
Okay, so the challenge, Thirsk Whisky Atlantic Challenge, it was done by 21 teams this year, so 21 boats. You can have teams of 5 to solos going. There was 56 people that went this year, and it was including 8 solos. And it is to row 3,000 miles from La Gomera in the Canary Islands to Antigua in the Caribbean. You don't see anybody the entire way across, pretty much, and it is known to take up to 100 days. 2016, one guy took 96 days. I mean, I took 70, but it can take as little as 27, 28 days if you're a team of strong guys, and the weather's in your favour. The weather wasn't in my favour, which made me take even longer, but that's a different story. Um, Sometimes the closest people are in space. The ocean's like 8,000 feet deep or something. You can't see land the whole way across. I've been asked that question a couple of times. Um,
But you
and
saw other things as well, didn't you? We're going to talk about them as we go.
yeah, but yeah, it's a once in a lifetime sort of opportunity and challenge to do, and was just incredible.
Wow, wow. So, um, Jasmine, I know that you've just talked about the different crews, numbers of crews up from five down to solo. I know when I've been watching the race, the past kind of 3 or 4 years, um, for our audience, they may be unclear as to the. I think it's the race class and the open class. What can you? Are those the two classes? There's the race class.
Yeah. So, as the sport is developing, there's quite a lot of new boats that are being built, new designs of different things. And so it is a race, but we've got to
Hmm.
make it fair. So Atlantic Campaigns run the open class and a race class. I was in the open class because of the type of boat I had. Most of the others, so there was three of us, four of us in the open class. Everybody else was in race. So it's one boat make called Rannoch. They have R25s, R45s, and so that meant that everybody that had one of them boats all raced between themselves. Whereas my class, I had an R15, which is a much older design of boat. I'll say a bit slower than the other ones. It doesn't catch wind as much. And it's just my boat. Better than the others, way better. But
Yeah, of
and
course,
then
of
people
course.
that have built their own or some of the older style of boats as well are in this open. But that's the thing. I wasn't in it for the race anyway, and
Yeah,
I'm a solo, so there's no way that you're gonna possibly win.
yeah.
So yeah, I was
No, it's
just happy
awesome.
with my boat anyway. Um, to be fair, I didn't really pay attention to the classes massively, but it's mainly a race between the size of the team. So the
Yeah,
fours are racing, the trios are racing,
yeah,
the pairs are racing, the
yeah.
solos are racing, and that's even
That's
if you
awesome.
are. Like I couldn't really care. To be
Yeah.
fair, I was just enjoying it. I was just hang at the back and chill.
No, that's awesome. So just finishing off about boats, you had a unique boat. It wasn't a Rannoch boat. What is the story of your boat, and has it done any other? I know people. There'll be things kind of the type of thing that you use chooses you, or the athlete. How did you come about getting this boat specifically, and how did you come about getting the name? Because I know it's called Argo, isn't it? So what was the story behind that?
Yeah. So Argo is an R15, and I picked him. I went boat shopping when I went to Lugomera the previous year. So I was walking along the dock being like, oh, because I've never seen a rowing boat before. And I was just like, hi, good luck. Can I see your boat? Can I sit on your boat? Am I allowed to go in your cabin? I was being really cheeky actually. Every single person I was just sort of hanging around for ages, being like, can I see this? How does this work? What's that? And just I don't want to seem stupid though either, because I'd entered this race. I've never rowed before, never been on one of these boats. I didn't really want to ask it after question, but it was only a couple of weeks before that I'd even realised that rowing you go backwards. It's quite late considering what I'd like put myself out for. But decided that Argo was my boat. I was going along, and the previous guy that owned it, who's called Dewey, is Austrian. And I spoke to him and said, oh, can I sit on your boat? Can I see this boat? And this feels right. This is something about this boat is my boat. So I'd put a deposit down whilst he was out in the middle of the Atlantic, and it was going to be mine. Previous to Dewey, it rode in 2017 with a guy called Mark Slats. He's quite a well-known Dutch sailor who then, when he completed the race in 2017 in 30 days by himself, oh lad, 30 days, he then within 2 months went off to compete in the Golden Globe around the world sailing race,
Mhm.
and he came second in that as well, which is just insane. Um, so Argo was originally called Peanuts. I asked Mark about this because he also competed and won this year with me in his own boat that he built from Dutch Ocean Expeditions. And I asked him, why is he called, why do you call him Peanuts? And he just said, well, he looks like a giant peanut. I was like, fair enough. Imaginative name for that one. And then Dewey named him Argo. That was in collaboration with his friend Manny, who is on the support yacht Sky. And who's called Argo because of the name Argo from the film. I'm not,
Cool.
I don't know whether I can say live on here why it's called Argo, but if you've ever watched that film, you'll figure it out.
Great.
Not from Jason and the Argonauts, though. Get that one clear. Not from that film. And I just stuck with Argo because it's bad luck to change the name of a boat, and I kind of felt like I needed all the luck that I could get. So Argo stuck, and it was pretty solid. Good strong name.
Cool. No, awesome. Cool. So yeah, that's amazing to hear about the boat. So just before we go on to the actual row itself, Jasmine, one thing I forgot to ask was when you told people, I know this is something that we talked about off air, but when you told people you were going to be doing the race, what was the different reactions from your friends, family, other people? What were the reactions? Were they all as you expected?
To be fair, I didn't really care for other people's reactions just because it didn't massively make any difference to me. I was going to do this whether people were supportive or not. I hadn't even considered it as like a big deal for other people because this is my
Mhm.
life. Like,
Yeah.
why should it affect other people? But I told my mum when I was in the Caribbean in 2018 anyway, when I saw the end of the race, I rang her up and said, "Oh, this is what my day is. I got to hold a flare. I met these people and all of that." And she was like, "What? You are not doing that. No way." And it was all quite like shocked and things. And then when I came back to the UK, I told some of my extended family just when I was in London. And they were like, "Oh, right, okay. Are you sure?" And they sort of didn't believe me, to be fair.
Mm.
But I think that's just because I was so laid back and quite reserved in actually. And I hadn't entered and I wasn't definite. I still took a year to decide that I wanted to do it. Um, and then I told my friends, but it was always like downplayed. I was, "Oh, well, I'm doing this thing. I'm going off for a travel trip thing. I'm doing a race." And that was sort of like standard for me anyway. Um, and so it was just sort of downplayed quite a lot until I just posted on Facebook saying, "This is exactly what I'm doing." And people were like, "Oh, right, okay, wow." And then it was like, "Oh, right, okay, you're on the radio today. Okay." And then there's a new, what actually are you doing, Jasmine? I was like, "Well, this is what I'm doing. Just follow my page, it'll be fine." And so it was quite because I was so chilled out about it. I never really got massive reactions. It was
Mm.
then only sort of strangers that would meet me. I'd be working in the pub, and then one of the locals would get a bit tipsy and say, "Oh, do you know what this girl's about to do?" But "Oh no, what?" So she's about to row the Atlantic, and they'd be like, "No way, wow!" I just, "Oh, for God's sake, just stop!" Like, I don't want all of that. And then, "Do you know how amazing that is?" I'm just like, "I've not done it yet." And that was always my fallback was, "I've not done it yet. It's not that bad. It's not like a big thing yet. Wait until I've done it." Sort of like passing it off to future Jasmine. Now I've done it. And now I'm there like, "Yeah, but wasn't that bad." Yeah, reactions of other people. I don't care for them massively.
No.
But it was a big variety. It did annoy me though when I got a bad reaction. If somebody was negative, I'd just be like, "Oh, well, whatever." And so
Good
that
luck.
annoyed me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, yeah, cool. Cool. So we're at the preparation. Did you have a strategy then for the row? I know a lot of teams I've spoken to anyway who had a very clear plan. We're going to do this. We've got three different sets, three different kind of sections of the race. We're going to try and do this every day. What was it like for you, Jazz, in the kind of outset? Did you have a plan or not?
My plan was to stay alive. Um, that's as far as I got. I hadn't thought massively about anything, just because I had no idea what it was going to be like anyway.
Mm,
Like, I just, if you expect something, the chances are that you're gonna get let down or your expectations aren't going to be met or something. So I sort of was really negative about it all, thinking you're never going to see a whale. You're going to be rowing for 20 hours a day every day and you're not going to get anywhere. And I sort of like really set the bar low. So I hadn't planned for anything. I'd only prepared for everything that was bad was going to happen. So I was like had a mental plan of, right, okay, when the boat sets fire, this is how I do that. And I was like reading the instructions on the back of the fire extinguisher, being like, right, okay, this is how I do it. So honestly, my
this
preparation
is
was
the pin to pull.
Exactly. My preparation and planning was so negative, but this was all like internal as well. This is all
Mm.
in my brain, like never spoke out loud, never anything like that. Um, so I hadn't had any strategy. It was at the start line that I was like, I don't know where I'm going. What degree do we actually go at? I'm thinking, right, okay, I need to leave, probably like 2:40. And I remember a previous couple of nights I was speaking to Mark Slats, who won, and the sailor, they're both perfect guy to ask. And I was just like,
Navigation king, you know.
exactly, yeah. And I was like, can you tell me where I'm going, please? Do I need to plan a route? Do I need to plot in coordinates into my GPS? And he was just like, nah. I was like, great, because I've not. Perfect. But this is nah from his point of view because he knows what he's doing. It shouldn't have been from my point of view. But yeah, it was fine. The preparation, it was just sort of what I needed to do. Atlanta campaigns, they won't let you set out unless you are prepared. So, and it was so much you needed to do for that. That was enough. I wasn't going to go over the top and do anything extra. Whereas
Yeah,
these other teams of four, and they're in a race as well. They've got four people to spread the workload over, and they can
yeah.
have strategies, they can have plans, they can do this, and they can think about other things. I was like, I just need to get to the start line. As long as I get to the start line and my boat's
Mm,
there, and as long as I make it to the other side alive, I do not care what happens in between.
mm, mm.
Because the chances are that you plan something and you want it to go that way, something will happen, it'll mess it up and it'll go wrong. So
Mm.
I wasn't going to waste energy and brain space
Yeah,
on.
no, that's really interesting to hear, Jasmine. And I know when we spoke before that a lot of a lot of people, there's five, four, three, two, for example, in the boats. And obviously, when you're on the boat, you've got other people that could let you down, or you've got to rely on them, or which are really good things in team sports. But I know that when we spoke, you said that you wanted to not have that pressure. You wanted to know that if you were going to let yourself down, it was going to be you. It wasn't going to be someone else that was going to let you down. It was going to be you that was going to be able to have full control, or as much control as can be on an ocean boat with the waves all around you. So is that a fair analysis, kind of
Yeah.
wanting to go solo kind of thing?
Yeah. So I don't, I mean, yeah, the ocean, there's nothing you can do against that, but I like to rely on myself. And I even found that out doing the preparation for even getting to the start
Mm,
line. It's like, if you want something, do it, just do it yourself. The amount of times you'd ask somebody for this favor or that, and it would just never happen, or there'd just be a problem, and it's like, oh, right, it's just so much easier if you just do it.
mm,
And even now, I don't think I really met anybody that would then want to row as a team. I've not really looked, to be fair, just because I never really saw it as an option. Like, I always wanted to go traveling. I remember speaking to my friends and they're saying, oh, yeah, let's go traveling. Let's go here together. Let's do that. So, like, is it really going to happen though? Because anything that we do, like the amount of people that always just back out or do something, and this
mm.
was so important to me that I couldn't afford to have
Yeah,
anybody back out
yeah,
either.
or
Like,
lay you down. Yeah,
exactly. It could have been easier with another person, but and it could have been maybe more enjoyable. I don't know, and I might not ever know, but it was just, yeah. I just wanted to do it by myself. I was already out traveling by myself anyway.
yeah,
So everybody was at different points in life, and especially like my friends are going to uni, they're doing this, and that was just my thing.
yeah. No, that's awesome. Cool. Well, everyone has their own angles on that, but in terms of the challenge then. So can you kind of could you categorize any of the parts of 70 days, 43 hours, I think? What was the can you categorize any of that in terms of the first kind of 30 days was really tough, and the second bit was easier, or what was the general category?
General category. First 3 days, absolutely horrendous. Didn't know where I was, lost my eyesight, blind, got lost, spanning circles.
Atlantic
Then,
Ocean.
yeah, then actually rowed, and it was good. Kind of don't really remember massively. It was just rowing standard, getting into the swing of things, and then weather hit bad. I had really bad weather over Christmas, so I had to put out a power anchor, and I was going the wrong direction. Was on power anchor for a few days, and then I had flat calm, the most beautiful water ever. I had dolphins, I had sunsets, and it was just incredible. I had birds flying over, I had so many different fish. It was just amazing. And then I had horrendous weather again, pushing me in the wrong direction. So I spent a lot of time sat on power anchor. I'm talking like these are all like week blocks.
Okay.
So I had then another week sat on power anchor. And then
For
I
the
had
Jasmine, for those who aren't aware, what's the power anchor? Just for people who maybe don't know what that is.
power anchor is a massive parachute on 100 meters of line that goes into the water straight below you to keep you still because the wind is so strong, blowing me the opposite direction that I can't physically row against it. So I just it's brakes, it's putting on the brake because you can't
Yeah.
actually put an anchor because the amount of chain you're going to need for them thousands of feet that would take up more
Yeah.
space on my boat than there is. So it's a sea anchor is other words for it. Um, so I was on that for like another week, and then I had a week where I just was fed up of having that, just sat there in my cabin do nothing. So I tried rowing, and so I spent a long time just rowing and rowing and rowing, literally moving at half a knot, getting literally no distance within a day. And even then, it was just making it even straight 180 degrees, which isn't any sort of progress, but at least it's not going backwards. You know, I'm heading south, which is kind of on the way, but not really. Um, then it settled down again and I had flat calm water for another couple of weeks. And then I had things started happening, things broke. So my bow line broke, my autopilot broke, which keeps my rudder in a straight line. I set fire to my jet boil, which wasn't ideal. Um, what else happened? Oh, and then I got there was a big boat that nearly ran me down. That was exciting. I had my first capsize end of January as well, middle of January. Um, that was I was on deck and I got thrown overboard. The waves got bigger and it got rougher. And then didn't really have many calm days after that. It was very random. The sea was always choppy. And then I started getting seaweed, sargassum seaweed started come past me quite a lot. I had a few different animals, whales started appearing. And then
While we're on the animals and the whales, did you get much chance to engage with them? I know we talked a bit about this off, but tell us a bit about
yeah, so every time there was dolphins, I jumped straight in. It was honestly, how quickly can I find my goggles to then jump in the sea? So I had my goggles tied up. So it was like spoons. I had a few different things like around the boat because whenever you want them, you just need them to be available. So spoons, if I was hungry, I just needed it because I was hungry at that point. I wouldn't be hungry 5 seconds later. I needed to be able to eat. And so it was like my goggles. I had a pair of my cabin, I had a pair at this end of the boat, a pair there. So I would just grab them, stick them on my face, and literally unclip myself from where I was on and then attach
that.
myself to a longer rope so I could just jump straight in the sea.
Yep.
So I do that every single time those dolphins. Absolutely love the dolphins, and it meant that I could clean the bottom of the boat at the same time as well. I had a few different whales, not as many as I hoped. Like I really hoped I'd have more. I had lots of fish, like fish for days. Lots of dorado. I had pilot fish in my moat, which are really stripy, really cute. And they followed me the entire way. I had some tuna. I had so a different kind of dolphin actually called Risso's dolphins. They were really cool, like scary looking as well. Pretty sure I had a shark. I had a couple of sharks, but I just flashed past you and like, whoa, that was who are you?
Get out of the water.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I had birds the entire way across as well, actually. Some really cool birds. They
Hmm.
joined me every day, just swam around flying fish. Flying fish, and then I'd find one dead on deck and I'd chuck it for this bird and see if I would see it and like go fishing for it. They weren't a massive fan because they'd staled by the time they'd been sat in the sun on my solar panel. But yeah.
Because I know some people we've spoken to who have spent time actually fishing on the boat for fish to eat. Did that happen to you? Did you use any of the fish to eat, or what did you end up eating? What was the spoons for? What was your go-to spooning?
Chocolate spread.
And
Yeah,
fish. Well,
no, I did take a fishing line, but that's just a whole other story that will wind me up. So we won't talk about that one. But um, yeah, it was mainly chocolate spread Nutella. And then I took some wet ration packs. Didn't really eat my dried ones. I'm gonna put water in, soak up, and honestly, I made some. I just chucked them straight in the sea and fed the fish with it. Like, not for me, minging.
that's the reason they were following you the whole way.
Yeah, probably. Just kept on feeding me food that I wasn't eating. I just ate chocolate, protein bars, seed bars, sweets, biltong,
Right. Yeah.
um, protein,
Hmm.
and then not a lot to be fair. There was a lot of days I just didn't eat anything.
Yeah.
There was a lot of days I didn't even drink anything. I, everything was effort. Like honestly, when you're there,
Yeah.
you're so tired. Unless I was rowing and unless I was literally sleeping, anything else was so much effort. I had to
Mm.
motivate myself,
Mm.
like really badly. I had to motivate myself to do anything.
Yeah.
So I ended up just learning that I'd keep food literally in my bed. I wouldn't even put it in a bag. I would already, before I go to sleep, I would undo the wrapper to a bar. Um, so then in my sleep, I would literally just find it. I'm probably laid on it, stuck to my leg or something, and then just eat as I'm literally, I wouldn't even open my eyes, wouldn't even sit up slightly. That was it. Everything is so much effort when you're at sea.
Yeah.
I could only be bothered to row, like
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah, so that brings us beautifully onto the kind of routine, and we talked a bit before about kind of the plan that you didn't have a strict plan that you were working to, and I think that's really interesting for people who are obviously in a team of four. If everyone had that mentality of, oh, I'll just row when I want and kind of get up when I want or whatever, that probably wouldn't work for them. But for you, was the kind of eating and rowing, what was that kind of 2 hours on, 2 hours off, or was it just sometimes I'm just feeling not like not rowing, so I'll just rest and then do a full day rowing, or what was the vibe?
The vibe was very different and changeable day to day.
Mm.
So some days I would uh, I tried to run most of the day from like when I'd say 8 a.m., but the time scale changed, like the time zone changed the entire way across. So even by the end, it was like 11 a.m. and it was still dark. So um, I would try and row from when it got light, so I could see the sunrise until the sunset was my favorite time to row, and then it would be into the evening as much as possible.
Hmm.
I'd put on an audiobook or put on some music and I'd try and stay awake for as long as I could. I'd set myself a target like, no, you're going to row till 2 a.m. No, you're going to row till 3 a.m. No, you're going to row till 4. And some days I'd be like, get to 11 o'clock and I'm not, I'm done for today. So it was really random and it depended on what my body
Yeah.
was doing,
Yeah.
how much eating, how.
Yeah.
But if I had hit a target as well, if I had managed to row 40 miles. I was like, that's good enough for me. I'll go to bed. I mean,
Yeah.
I could have gone further and I could have got absolute miles, but
Yeah.
I was happy enough at
Yeah.
what I'd done. Like I wasn't striving for far.
No, it's interesting. That's really cool. And obviously, with the race, you said there were 21 boats. Was that correct? And 56 people. Was that right? 56 or
Yes.
yeah,
I
something like that. I'm impressed with that memory there. But in light of that, was there ever a point in the challenge which you were kind of looking at looking at the other boats and going, oh, the others are ahead of me, or what was there any comparison, or was it just like I'm doing this myself? I don't care what anyone else is doing. Was there any tracking of boats or anything like that?
Yeah. I was actually really bothered where other people were. Um, Only because I was actually quite paranoid that I was just doing it wrong. Like I didn't know where I was. I wanted to. I know you guys, when you're on land, you can see all the trackers and see where everybody is. I just didn't know on that day whether I was like in the middle of everybody's tracks or whether I was way too north, way too south, and your scale just goes completely. So for me, I felt like I'd rode so far and I'd maybe gone way too north or south, but actually it would have taken me like 10 days to be able to get too far. Um, but it's so like zoomed out in my mind when you're out there that you just the scale that. So I was always reassured of where I was compared to other people, but I was also like I was bothered just in the sense of I felt like I maybe wasn't putting in as much effort. I want,
Mm.
or I'd put in so much effort for a day. So I'd rode like 18 hours or something ridiculous. And I wanted to know, I don't know, kind of like a competitive thing, how far have other people rode today? So it's like, oh, the other solo rode less than you or further than you. And I'd be like, well, how can they rode further than me? I rode for 18 hours. Like, they can't possibly have rode further than me. Um,
Mm.
and so it was more just like, something to do as well. Like kind of have that call and a reason to call up as well. Like a bit of
Yeah,
an excuse to talk to somebody. As it would always come back down to, well, where are other people? You know, and then it was just like, oh, right, okay, and you got that conversation, even if there was nothing else to talk about, because
yeah,
imagine if anything happened there and it was lockdown in the UK.
yeah,
I just wanted to speak to somebody. So to kind of have that as a fallback question um, is really useful.
yeah,
I knew exactly where people were the entire time.
yeah, yeah. So in terms of that, you mentioned about the call. Is that just to clarify for people, you had a sat phone and you were calling your was it your mother each day for kind of an update?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sat phones, I had two of them, one for the safety officers, one for just me. I'd call up anybody. But I was sat there bored at power looking through my contact list. Ooh, who can I call up today? Who's going to get a nice little surprise random satellite phone number? And it was also a bit of a game like, who's actually going to answer? The amount of people that don't answer random calls. Well, you missed out today, then, didn't you? Um, but yeah, I would ring up anybody, and sometimes the weeks would go by. Like I'd have one friend that I'd ring up on a certain day, and I was just like, and that week went quickly. I've got nothing to say. Then nothing's happened in a week. What on earth do I tell them? I'm ringing my name like, morning. Yeah, that's it. So I'm alive.
So would you say, because we're going to come on to kind of motivation in a second, but in terms of getting you through, were those calls, were they kind of something that really encouraged you and pushed you forward, or what were the other things that were kind of in your mind when you're having that tough time? What was it in your mind that was pushing you forward?
I wouldn't say the calls pushed me forward. If anything, they distracted me and held me off all time. So I would suddenly realize I was being on a call for 3 hours and I've drifted backwards when I could have been using that valuable time either for sleeping or rowing. So it wasn't good like that. Um, Motivation in difficult times. That's a good question. It was just the fact that I knew I I wanted to be there. That's where I wanted to be. And
Hmm.
so that was quite forward pushing. And the fact that I was enjoying it, like
Yeah,
really difficult times, I was like, this is what I'm here for. I'm here for this
yeah,
challenge. This challenge is what I'm going to compare the rest of my life to. So it was
yeah,
just sort of, I chose to be here. I
yeah,
can't be annoyed. I can't be sad or whatever when I put myself in
yeah.
that place. Like,
Yeah, you didn't just fall into this situation, did you? It was a
yeah,
lot of
I
a thousand choices, a thousand choices that made it.
chose to be there.
So, Jazz, I remember before the race we talked about this playlist that you'd had put together of tons of songs. Was there any song that you were there rowing and that came on? You were like, oh yeah, we're going now. Or was there any song that was like, can't believe someone's put this on the list? Or like what was the were there any funny moments when that happened?
Yeah. Um, I had some songs I was like, what on earth is this? This is rubbish. But I made a pact to myself that I wasn't going to skip a single song. I was going to
Really?
listen to every single one the entire way. And it took me 33 days to get through the entire playlist. Like it was a lot of music.
So you had
Um,
time to go through it twice, essentially, in the
yeah, I didn't. But yeah, I there was a couple of songs that sort of like really motivated me. There was only one song that actually I wanted to dance to. Just one day I was really happy, I don't know why, I just stood up and just danced. Um, and that was a Reach for the Stars because I'm a
tune,
cool kid.
tune.
I just like brought it back to when I was like school discos when you're little.
Was it when the stars were out? That was the question.
And I was like, just middle of the day, blazing hot
Uh-huh.
sun, just stood up. I was like, reach for the stars.
Mm.
And yeah, it was just great. Loved it.
No one
Um,
can see me.
exactly. That was the one thing. I was just like, hang on, there's nobody here. Nobody cares what I'm gonna do.
Yeah,
And I don't know
yeah,
if I didn't even have to tell people. But yeah.
yeah. No, that's awesome. That's very cool. And in terms of during the row, was there any moment where you felt like giving up? Because I know lots of people, you know, talk about that and how they get over it and stuff. Was there any moment when that was when you were like at the bottom? You know?
No, couldn't give up.
No.
Um, Plus I had in the back of my head, I was just like, the weather will take me there eventually. I'm gonna hit land eventually. So giving up. I couldn't. Giving up meant dying, really. I guess
Yeah,
I really gave up, and wasn't going to do that. I'm happy.
No.
Happy at life. So no.
Yeah, you're pushing on. And in terms of we talked about this before, but the the physical, the mental, and the technical training and preparation for the challenge. In your opinion, what do you think was the most important out of those three? They all play a part, but for you, what was your understanding and kind of conclusion on that?
Um, I would probably say the technical part to it, just because it's sod's law that if you don't know it, something's going to go wrong. So
Mm.
it's getting to know my boat and being confident in him. So that was probably the most important, even though I didn't need it. So it wasn't really that important, but it was just because, if something does go wrong, then yeah, you need to know that stuff.
Did anything go wrong on the boat then? Because I know some boats, things break off or something snaps.
Not massively. Sometimes I run out of power, but who cares? Um, then my autopilot broke, so that actually lost me like 5 days, but I don't really care about that. It was noisy anyway. And then my bow line broke, but I could tie a knot, so that was fine. In terms of the things going wrong, my AIS system was a bit faulty, which wasn't ideal, which meant this big boat nearly ran me down. Um, and then charging cables, I went through so many charging cables, and then charging the sat phones is just, yeah, annoying, but um, nothing
Yeah,
like
so for those who don't know how one of these boats is powered, it's solar, isn't it?
that.
That's powering the boat the whole time. And so when you say charging cables, is that just a USB, I guess, that's charging that?
Yep, because
Um,
everything rots with salt water.
yeah.
Even the air, like just salty air, just destroys Apple cables. So I broke 2 phones and an iPad, 3 phones and an iPad, I think. I mean, they're fixed now. Well, two, two of them are. Um, but yeah, it's just everything. Bro, I went through like 7 Apple cables, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just stuff like that, like stuff that's not designed for sea, basically,
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
designed for an ocean crossing.
So Jasmine, did you feel at any point your body had been kind of taken down? Like you felt that it was kind of positive. You felt good most of the time, but there were some injuries. Do you want to tell us a bit about them?
Yeah, well, to be fair, the main thing when my body sort of gave up was when I've been on the oars for so long, and it's your feet that are in the foot plates. So my knees would lock, my ankles would lock, and my hips would lock, like in a bent position. So then when I laid down in my cabin and I straightened my legs, I was in absolute agony. Like they needed to stretch, but it would hurt too much that I then had to curl my legs up just so it was comfortable because that's how they'd been sat for so long.
Mm,
Same with your hands. My hands literally like claw grip just stayed like that. So physically, when I stretched them like that, you could see the skin like stretching on my fingers because it
yeah.
hadn't been used to be straightened for so long. Um, and then injuries, not well, it was mainly the my capsized just before I finished. I just whacked my elbow. I'm pretty sure I broke it. I've still got a lump that sticks in and out. But yeah, that was just yeah. Well, I'm at the finish line by then anyway. Who cares?
Because you capsized twice. Was that correct?
Yeah, once I was on deck and I landed in the water, which was a nice soft landing, and then the other one I got bounced off the ceiling, and that was a full 360 all the way around, and that was scary and yeah, just horrible.
Mm. How did you kind of come round after that? Were you, with those situations? How, you know, did you? Yeah, were you kind of injured then? How long did that set you back in terms of stopping and recovering a bit?
I mean, it was such bad weather in terms of good weather. Like the waves were so big and the wind was so strong, pushing me in the right direction
Yeah.
that it didn't actually matter whether I rode or not. Um, and so it didn't really set me back very far. It just hurt, and
Mm.
you just think practically, like, what can I do in that scenario? And I was so close to land, I didn't really care. It was more, what's I need to check that my life raft is still on my boat. It was, to be fair, it was just the expensive things. I was like, I hope my EPIRB's still there. I hope my life raft. I hope I've still got an oar. It was just more stuff that like I didn't want to be lost or
Mm.
broken. like my flagpole bent, and so that's who cares about that. So it's just more like I've made it all the way without littering in the sea either. I was like, I hope I've
Yeah,
not lost anything. But
yeah.
everything was tied on, and it was good for the second capsize because I'd lost a sock and a speaker on the previous one, which was annoying. Well,
I can imagine. And you mentioned there about the oar. Is there a high chance of or easy possibility of losing an oar, or and is that did you carry a spare?
yeah, most time whenever you capsize, you break oars. So I luckily didn't because my oars were really good. Um, and yeah, you have to carry two lots of oars or two or three. So I had two pairs of oars with me. The other pair didn't get used. I just used the same ones the entire way.
Wow, that's amazing. So you've talked a bit about the nature, the best sunsets. That was the kind of the time that you enjoyed rowing and the whales. Did you get any good footage and photos of these experiences? Yeah.
Yeah, got quite a few. I tried to every single time anything happened. I tried to grab my camera. Um, so yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Where can are these showcased anywhere? Are they online? Where can people see them? Or
At the moment, not all my footage is available. It will be at some point soon. There's different stuff about documentaries maybe getting made.
cool.
But just there's stuff on my socials. So it's Instagram, Jasmine Harrison, Facebook, Rudley Mad. Just find things on there. There's different stuff you can have a look back and got the entire story of the crossing on.
That's awesome. Yeah, and for those who are wanting to see Jasmine's social media, they're all in the kind of description of this video anyway. So that'll be you can check that out either now or after the conversation as well. Cool. So Jasmine, in terms of the biggest challenge, we did talk about this the other week as well, but just tell the viewers what the biggest challenge was. Was it the physical? Was it the technical, aspect or mental for you? What was the biggest challenge in the end?
All of it combined
Hmm.
because you can't just single out one thing. Um, because the technical side of it, my autopilot broke, which meant then physically it was more challenging. So that was like two things in one. It was all, and that mentally, when something breaks, it's all like a chain reaction.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, my autopilot broke, which meant that was a technical problem. So then physically, I had to row stronger on one side than the other, physical problem. And then because of that, it changed my mental game about it and it made
Yeah.
it a lot tougher to do that. So it's
Yeah.
literally everything. You can't separate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all in all, building that mental resilience as well. Yeah. One thing you did talk about was the how the weather had such a huge impact and how that was just a game changer. Just you know, what were the yeah what was yeah what were the kind of key differences in that and how different would you say that would was that the same for everyone? You mentioned about everyone being in the situation. On the same sea, but obviously it's so different in those different areas, the microclimates. What was that for you? What was that like for you?
I hate wind, basically. Wind is the worst thing ever. Um, Especially when it pushes in the wrong direction. And everybody had a different row. Like I know that somebody only 10 miles away from me was having different conditions to what I was. Like it's a sort of you can be in a rain cloud, put one hand in a rain cloud and another hand isn't in the rain cloud. Like it's so changeable. And
Hmm.
within a few minutes, you can have a massive wave and then it's like a lot calmer. Like, what is going on? Like, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. Well, Jasmine, as you know, or you may know that this week is actually Mental Health Awareness Week, and a lot of people have been talking. Certainly, I've spoken to a lot of people about how nature and the environment really can be a huge and physical activity can be a huge benefit for mental health, improving mental health and a positive outlook on that. How did you find your mental health throughout the row? Did you feel like you were kind of was it a roller coaster or what?
No, I think I was fairly stable most of the time. Um, but it was just random things, random days. It's just more external factors. You find out things from home, or
Mm,
yeah, it was just like my mental health was okay most of the time, but that's because there was no other things that sort of could affect it. There was nobody. The biggest thing I find is other people. always other people become that get in your head or anything like that. So when you're out there by yourself, it's literally just you. It's only you can rely on. Um, and so there's getting them negative thoughts out of your head are fairly simple when
Mhm.
you've got so much space to like like chuck all your negative thoughts away. I did that a lot. I arranged my brain, got rid of so much rubbish filled up there. So that helped having that space. It really did
Mhm.
help.
Mhm.
Um, and then it made it easy to be able to control. Maybe if I hadn't have spent that time and got rid of all the rubbish that was building up, then I'd have struggled more. But I did, and I did that quite early on, so it was helped and really useful.
That's cool. And there were a few ways that you did kind of let loose on the boat, from what we talked a bit about as well, when you were releasing some of your maybe frustration or with the weather and stuff. Um,
Well, you mean literally just screaming at the sea?
yeah, that's something.
I
Yeah, I thought
literally
you were going to
just sit there
mention.
screaming at the sea, and then get out my bottle of rum.
Was that for a particularly bad day? Is just to get you through the night, or?
No, to wake me up on a morning.
Oh, lovely,
It
lovely.
wakes you up, doesn't it?
Wow.
Especially
Yeah,
if you
are you still doing that? Are you still doing that, or? Um,
no. Um,
no, that's awesome. Cool. So, yeah, just as we're kind of coming towards kind of close, um, in terms of getting to the other side, you arrived in Antigua, Jasmine, and after 70 days, 48 hours, and how did you find arriving back on land and the kind of welcome? Was it as you I know having spoken to other people, they kind of picture that arrival, they picture that shot of the flares going up. How did that meet your expectation, and how did you feel?
Again, I didn't really expect anything just because then it couldn't be let down massively. I had, obviously, but yeah, it felt pretty good. It didn't really feel like it was me. Um, but also it was quite scary just the fact seeing people, it's quite overwhelming. Having land that I was just petrified of hitting because I've been so far away from land. And then it didn't help that I burnt my hands on the flares and that really hurt.
Oh,
Um,
right.
and it was all just so like it was just a whirlwind. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. Cool. So you landed back in Antigua, and what were some of the how did you find the transition when you arrived back on land? Obviously, you'd been away for 70 days. During that time, a very niche situation the world has been in, COVID, obviously, the pandemic, and you'd obviously not been part of that. What were the kind of the things that hit you when you got back, apart from people?
To be fair, I settled in quite well. I literally just got off land, went off, had some food, and then I just sat with another row and I just sat and had a beer. This is life. I literally just straight away, boom, there we go, back into
Mm,
it. Um, it was just, yeah, and I was so tired though. I was just so tired. I just kept on pottering along. It's just what happens. I think if I maybe,
mm,
I wasn't prepared for it either. Like, yeah, I had a long time to prepare, but I wasn't. So
mm.
it was okay.
Yeah, I remember you shared how the other week how it was just crazy having to wear a mask and follow procedure and stuff, when you had just been so kind of autonomous the last 70 days, and you kind of get in that mindset, and then bang, all of a sudden you're hit by regulations and technology. I can imagine very overwhelming. But yeah, so you've achieved the world record, for the youngest female to row across the Atlantic. Amazing. If someone else wanted to do it, would you kind of advise that? Would you kind of encourage them in that? And how would they go about starting even? Um,
100% do it. Um, Definitely do it. But just be sure that you do want to, and also be prepared for what you need to give up. You do need to dedicate quite a lot to rowing. You need to make it your one thing that you want. Everything else becomes a lot further down the list. Everything boat related, everything rowing, that is priorities. Otherwise, you're going to struggle to make it to the start line. And the rest of it,
you
yeah,
mentioned something. You
be
mentioned giving
smart.
up. What would you say you had to give up
Well,
to
it's
do it?
just the amount of it kind of helped for me anyway, but even the first 6 months of entering, you're like, you gotta give up seeing your friends as
Mm,
much. You've got to go out training on the water. You've got to take advantage of the good weather. You've got to do this. You've got deadlines to meet. You've got to do these sponsorship proposals. You've got to go for meetings. So even like work, you it becomes a full-time job. So you
mm,
literally to
mm.
give up work.
Yeah.
Everything sort of, and the amount of stress that you think, so it's like relationships break down, just everything. You gotta put everything
Mm.
into something so big.
No, that's awesome. And so now you're back on land, Jazz. Um, you arrived back in Thirsk, I know your hometown, and have received amazing recognition for your achievement, rightly so. And how have you found the kind of the press, the recognition in the is it an honorary member of Thirsk you've been made with a plaque in the town? How did that kind of come about, and how did that feel?
Yeah, it just came about because they wanted to do something to recognize me, and it's the freedom of the town.
Mm. Freedom
uh,
of the town, that's it.
and it's, yeah, I mean, to be fair, I feel like I've got enough. I've done and I've got what I wanted, which was the
Mm.
ocean crossing.
Yeah.
Everything else is just extra, which is really nice of people. But yeah, it's
Hmm.
just unexpected. It's quite cool. It's really cool. It
Yeah.
hasn't sunk in yet because it's all still happening. It's
Yeah.
all still going on. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So in light of that, what have you been up to since you've been back? I know you talked about some challenges. Um,
Yeah, I'm now a brand ambassador for a few different things, including Twisted, which we're going to do some adventures with like Land Rover Defenders. Um, and then yeah, I've just been trying to get back into fitness, just seeing what I want to do next. So picking back up swimming, tempted to run, cycling quite a lot. Just yeah, seeing what there is.
awesome, cool. Well, I know that you've got a lot of fun opportunities that are coming your way now, having achieved this amazing challenge, and we're really excited to be following that. But have you got any ideas to maybe share with us about what the next challenge might be for the viewers, or is that going to be announced soon on your channels?
Kind of announcing there's some ideas floating around. Got a
Cool.
meeting to discuss some stuff tomorrow. Um, yeah, don't know, just watch the social media. Uh,
Cool.
there's some main Yorkshire based things, to be fair, Yorkshire based stuff.
Cool. Good stuff. Well, guys, that is a wrap for today. And I'd like to thank my guest, Jasmine, for joining us today on the show. And you can find more about all Jasmine's work, next steps on social media, and links below. And keep an eye on the website, which is ruddilymad.co.uk, I believe, for updates. Links to all the past and upcoming conversations are online and can be found through our channels and the website, insidestory.show. And Jasmine, it's been fun. Look forward to being outdoors again soon. And to all watching and listening, thanks for subscribing. See you on the next time for more conversations exploring life's big questions, human endeavour, culture, ideas, and truth. I'm David Stretton-Downes, and this has been The Inside Story.